Hi, everyone, and no need to adjust your set. This is my choice to externalize the topic of the day, which is a discussion of identity and self-identity. People have this idea that INFPs have both a very strong sense of self and also a strong sense of values. And both of those are at most partly true. That is, I would say that INFPs, that we have a strong sense of the fluidity of self. That is, you know that there's a kernel of yourself that doesn't change. But surrounding that is a frequent adjustment, recontextualization, and reconsideration, changes, swapping out things to best see how the self evolves over time to meet the needs of the external environment, the needs of the self, the ego. So here I am in this recontextualization. Unless you're a very long time viewer, you probably don't know about my liking of hats. And while I don't wear them too frequently indoors, outside I do tend to have my beret, flat caps, fedoras, at least for the winter months when it's cold enough out to merit it. It's a practical matter. Similar with bow ties, I don't tend to wear bow ties, but someone else who would never wear one ever was gifted some, and so I inherited these, and it's probably the third time I've ever put this one on. But the idea being that here I am recontextualized, but some of these external symbols could be things that I would incorporate into the self in the, for the past, present, and future, just like potentially I could take new ideas and new ways of thinking and bring those in, swap them out. And the reason I keep bringing in this contextualization, that it's context specific, is that, yes, here I am in this particular outfit in where I'd usually dress in a different way. Similarly, people may adopt different ideas, different conclusions based on the context in which the discussion's being had. And that goes back to FI being fluid, values being fluid. It really depends on what's going on with the context of all the things that are happening around the thing that you're trying to assign value to. If it's one particular set of circumstances and one particular kind of approach and viewpoint, then you may come to one conclusion. But in a completely different context, the conclusion may be different. And that's some of the difference, I think, between the subjectivity of FI and the objectivity of TI. That is, TI judgments should be appropriate in all contexts, or at least the context is specific and static. Whereas with FI, it does seem to depend more on what are the circumstances. I need to know more in order to feel out what the correct conclusion is, what the circumstances are that merit a conclusion to fall one way or another. And as the self changes, those conclusions also aren't necessarily going to be static. The me of 5 years from now may make a different value judgment than the me of today based on the evolution of one's own fluid self-identity. And this goes back to why I enjoy role-playing games so much, because there are so many different levels of things going on, where it's the self sitting down with others and their selves, but then the way that we see and are seen by each other. So one never gets to experience the pure self, only the filter of how we wish to present ourselves. And then over that, we put on the toy mask of the game. And so you're having a conversation in pretense of being a different persona, while being ourselves, and then observing those persona conversations while still being ourselves, and then potentially even having a conversation about the conversation that's being had. It's, at least for me, I get a lot of joy out of that discussion that happens at many different levels, where we see ourselves the way we wish to be presented, the way we wish to present our artificial persona that's for the game, and then discuss the artificial persona through the filter of who we present ourselves at the gaming table. Anyway, that's about all I've had to say for identity, but I did just want to say that, yes, the idea of static values, static identity, I see that as being more SI over FI, that people use their experiential references and they kind of build on the judgments they've got and they create a permanent set of what's important to them. I don't have that. What I do have is a lot of granularity to look at specific things and then be able to assign value to those things as needed, freshly, incorporating fresh ideas. And yes, that has some advantages in terms of fluidity and being able to work dynamically with the situation, and then some drawbacks of potentially one could be caught in a hypocrisy that something that you thought made sense a year ago doesn't make sense anymore. And it's like, well, it just doesn't feel like the correct decision any longer. Not that it's, I just feel like whatever I'm doing, it's being beholden to machinations that are greater than oneself, which goes back to some of the past stuff I've said about spirituality. There is, with FI, a sort of feeling of the greater than oneself, that the decisions that we reach have to be correct. They're not what we would prefer a lot of the time, but they are what is the right thing to do. And the right thing to do ain't always what we would prefer for it to be. Anyway, I think that's probably enough of rambling. I hope some of this made sense, and I will, I think for the next video, appear back in my regular skivvies, but I hope wherever you may be that you are similarly having a dapper day, and if you are celebrating the holidays, a happy holidays in any which way that you choose to celebrate them. And bye for now.